Hi, and welcome or welcome back to the Future of SaaS Festival. We hope you're enjoying the presentation so far. Just a quick reminder, if you're not already a member of our Slack community, follow the link at the top of the event website to network and join the discussion.
Hello and good day to everybody wherever you are coming in from. My name is Kaylin. I am head of customer success at Visme. Going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. I do have some presentation slides just to give us that visual as we're working through our talking points today. As a quick warm up here, I want to know where everybody's coming in from. I love being able to know from what corner of the world are you. Please feel free to go ahead and put things inside of the public chat to give us some insight into where our audience is joining us from today. Me personally, coming in from Wisconsin in the US, kind of mid-state Wisconsin, the frozen tundra, as we like to call it. Oh, Greg, San Jose, California, you're killing me. I'm sure it's such a beautiful place. Montreal, excellent. It's great to have you guys. I'm really excited about this topic. As customer success leaders, worker bees, the whole piece of being that voice of customer and sitting closely to the success of our customers, we have such an exciting opportunity that blends into product development. I mean, it's as close as you can get to being a coder or a developer and being able to drive a product roadmap without actually having that skill set. Me, like coding, I don't know how to do that, but I can definitely present that impact and that opportunity for how do we empower our customer voice and then impact that product roadmap so that we are blending that into the future of our SaaS for growth, helping our customers be as successful as they can with our product. But there's a lot of considerations and things to keep in mind when you are working with development and that customer success focus of how do you feed in to that roadmap. So today we're going to talk about a lot of those things today. But first and foremost, I want to at least give a little bit of background and introduction into what is Visme. So head of customer success with Visme. This presentation you see in front of you, actually built this in Visme. So Visme is an all-in-one content creation platform, empowering designers and non-designers. Actually, about 80% of our user base are non-designers, being able to create visual branded content regardless of your design skill or background. We all know what it means to get something from a graphic design department or a creative team. You get something back and you feel confident with it. It's beautiful, it's polished, it's branded. But the fact of the matter is, we don't get that luxury of being able to get that kind of material and collateral from our graphics team all the time. So being able to carry that through ourselves as the subject matter experts to create that visual content, that's where Visme comes into play. So we support all different kinds of content types. You can create presentations, infographics, visual documents, charts and graphs, reports. Ultimately, it's at this intersection of like the Adobe Creative Suite and even PowerPoint. Simple to use like PowerPoint, which we've known for decades, but bringing you the power and sophistication of graphic design. So you're going to see some things inside of this design tier thinking, oh, that's kind of cool, being able to design that. Just want to at least give you some forecast into who is Visme, because that's going to be relative to our talking points today. In terms of giving you context into my personal experiences, our model for Visme is to have anybody that can go to our website, visme.co. You can, of course, browse our site, all of our content, but the key is you can actually even create an account. You can create a free account. We start with those free accounts for our users where they can then jump in, start creating in a limited environment. And if they feel that Visme is a great long-term solution for them, they can move into those paid subscriptions, ranging from single users, whether they're personal use or professional use, or they can move into team plans and even enterprise plans. So that is Visme. That is our model, just to give you some idea in terms of our customers and how we have our customers impacting our product roadmap. First and foremost, the key topic I want to hit on first is, as it relates to customer success, how do you get that synchronicity between customer success and then product development? I have been in spaces, and I would love to know, have you guys been with a SaaS where the customer success and the development team is siloed? Feel free to throw that in the chat. I'm so curious, kind of just like a quick little poll there. I have, I have. And to be candid and honest and frank, it's borderline disastrous when you do not have that tether between customer success and product development. Yep, Sue is saying, yep, sure have. It's what you find is, and to be honest, like even my past experience, when there was not that customer success and product development synchronicity, the product went a total direction that was not beneficial for the customer. And to be honest, we actually even lost a lot of our customer base, and we basically had to rebuild. And that is a really tough pill to swallow, especially when you have investors, or whether you're bootstrapped or you are venture backed. Having to go back to the drawing board and backpedal, and then losing, of course, all of those customers. I mean, look, at the end of the day, customer success is for retention, and customer success sits at the front lines of customer satisfaction. So we're the ones that have to speak towards the product, not only helping our customers use it, but also empowering them with where are we going futuristically and how are they successful with the product today? And how can we build a product for the future that continues to build upon that success? So how do you build that synchronicity between product and customer success? First and foremost, I'm going to move over here to the far left here, and we're going to talk about building rapport with product as the voice of the customer. We all know development and product. I mean, customer success, we are highly interactive individuals in terms of like personality. Like we're out there. We tend to be, very interactive, influential. We are outspoken. That is what puts us in that front line of customer success. But you think about the personality trait of a developer, we're like their worst nightmare. We can probably scare them in many cases. Like they have customer success floating into their Slack channels and they're like, oh gosh, customer success is here, look out. So how do you build that trust and that rapport with product? I think the key piece to keep in mind is you have to get to the level of communication with development. You have to keep things simple, direct, straightforward. They're busy. They're in code all day. That's their first language. So being able to just tone things down, ask simple questions, don't be over influential. There's a time and a space to be influential. To drop in Slack or to drop in their inboxes and just floating all of these ideas sporadically at them all the time, that is not organized. So I think the key piece to remember is that as you get feedback from customers, or if you're anticipating areas of opportunity within the product, be organized in how you gain that information and when you present that, whether it goes to additional leadership and individuals that you can bounce that off of to understand, when is our opportunity to approach this, or even just building in that documentation, having that documentation and keeping things organized so that when you have that opportunity and venue where you're at a round table and you can bring those forward, you're doing it in an organized fashion. The key thing I want you to keep in mind here is that, look, when it comes to customer success, you have to get yourself in a position where you're linking arms with support and they trust you and believe you and they respect what you bring forward. I've seen some customer success folks, just like I said, they rapid fire ideas. Keep those ideas, contain them, massage them, brew on them, give them those upvotes, as I like to say, because if you're getting repeated suggestions from customers on what could potentially be beneficial for them in the product, hold those. Don't run to product development or run to leadership and say, hey, I got this great idea. Pause. Build those into a repository or a tracking mechanism. Maybe it's something you keep on your own. Maybe it's something that as a team, you guys can collect and gather those all in one space. That's what I would recommend first and foremost. Collect those all in one space so that you have full-blown visibility into the entire landscape of what's being brought forward to customer success. But ultimately, you want to build those relationships. And if that happens first with leadership, being close with product, start there. And then all of your other customer success managers can just then filter all of that through customer success leadership. On to the next point, which really no one can argue with data, right? Data and, customers have a lot of ideas. On our next topic, we're going to talk about how to manage all the cooks in the kitchen. Everybody's got the bright ideas of what's going to come inside of your product development roadmap. but no one can argue with data. So when you have your product, not only from a standpoint of purely insights, whether it's something in the back end of your SaaS where you are able to then identify what is being used, what are the areas of the platform that are being used the most. Like in the example of Visme, we have thousands of design templates. That's what helps our non-designers create graphic design quality content. So we have thousands of them. And we have them across core format types, presentations, infographics, documents. We want to better analyze then, what are the format types our users are creating? What are the different subject matters of all of our different templates? Where do folks land the most? Interestingly, like timelines, process and flow, roadmaps, flow charts, those are some of our most popular format types. And then from there, for us, how are they pulling that information out of Visme? Are they downloading it in certain formats? Are they publishing it? These are, if you can kind of wrap your brain around what I'm getting at, you have to have some of that back end insights built into your platform. If you don't have it, position it. Position that as an important element of the future of your developmental roadmap. That could filter in. While it's not something that first and foremost, it might not immediately impact your customers because it's not front facing. It certainly has a long-term impact because it's building in your insights into the platform. If you don't have that opportunity to work with product on how they build in those insights behind the scenes on how your customers are using the tool, an alternative, of course, is just to use, again, your own tracking, your own mechanisms. When you are sitting down and having your monthly meetings, maybe bi-weekly meetings, maybe QBRs, ask the questions. I think in the early parts of my customer success career, I can admit that I was scared to ask questions. I was scared to pry. I was worried that folks might have felt I was, getting too much into the weeds with them, or I maybe didn't feel like they might have worried that I wasn't really knowledgeable about them enough. So I skirted away from asking too many questions. What I've come to find is everybody loves to talk about what they're doing, and everybody's very passionate about what they're doing to make success and what their day-to-day involves. So ask the questions. Don't skirt away from that. Start high level, in those sessions and meetings with them, find out what is working really well for you. What are the sticky points? What are the things you haven't really tapped into yet that are interesting for you? And know your product well enough that you can even infiltrate those questions from a standpoint of how it works inside of their workflow. Might not ask direct questions, but talk through their workflow and how your product moves through that workflow. You can start to learn a lot of really interesting things through those conversations, which again, you can then track and analyze and document internally on your own, which can overall build a really interesting picture as you're getting all of those insights from every single one of your customers. And again, I suggest in that case too, best to keep everything universal, track that as a team. If you have folks tracking individually, excellent, but when you bring everything together, it's just going to create a much clearer vision and picture for all of you. Moving on to the next point, which I think we can all relate to. We've got a lot of folks in the kitchen when it comes to SaaS, don't we? We've got your product and development, of course. We got your leaders too. You got your leaders. If you are VC backed, you've got your board of directors and investors. You have your product development. You have sales. You have support. You have customer success. There's a lot. There's a lot of interaction with forward-facing individuals at the company with your customers. Sales, support, customer success being obviously the most that come front of mind initially. And when we get those ideas from customers, when you are customer-centric, every idea sounds like a good idea, right? Every idea they give you is like, ooh, light bulb, love that. But again, it goes back to that first point too, is be mindful in how you get that information, but also it's super important when you have so many different layers inside of the company that are speaking with customers. Let's start with sales. Sales wants to make the deal, right? They want to make the deal. I've seen it happen where sales says, yeah, we have that. No, we don't. Or, oh yeah, that's on the product development roadmap. And then all of a sudden you have the promise of a feature that the customer was sold that is apparently on the development roadmap, and maybe it isn't. And customer success has to take the heat for that. So how does everybody manage those points? And especially when they all have that impact on where the product goes. I think it's super important that as an organization, you have to know the lanes and you have to make sure everybody stays in those lanes. Support is there to help, remedy, fix. If there is feedback for product development coming into support, make sure support is putting that in a space where it's available for customer success, it's available for product, but it is not on support to make those decisions of what goes into product. Again, they just need to filter that into the right spaces so that everything can be tracked, recorded, and analyzed later. Sales, customer success. When we have sales and customer success, which of course go hand in hand and they should always be integrated with each other, no silos between sales and customer success. But when it comes to these departments, they need to know what exists in the platform today, and they need to know what's coming up in the future. How can you do that? How do we know what's coming up into the product roadmap? There should be, even if it's as simple as an Excel spreadsheet or like a Gantt chart of what's coming, what's the time frame, and that's a full-blown tracking mechanism of throughout the product development roadmap, from UI design to building it. What are the timestamps of when that's going to roll out? And from there, what does it impact? Who are the main user groups? Who would this be beneficial for? That needs to be visible. That's something that we deployed at Visme last year. It has been hugely helpful from a customer success and a sales perspective, so that we're not giving false promises, but then we can also drive that revenue. If it's something someone's talking about and it doesn't live in the product today, we can speak to when it's coming. So having all of those pieces in play to provide visibility, insights, fully agree with that. Thanks, Greg, totally. Have that available. It doesn't need to be fancy. You don't have to go out and buy a really fancy additional SaaS tracking platform for all of that. Maybe you use your existing Asana. Maybe you use that in a Google Sheet or spreadsheet that's then available across the team. Maybe it goes in Jira. Wherever that is being placed, everybody deserves that visibility towards it, and everybody needs to honor it. That's the key piece as well. So make sure that you're just building in that understanding across the team, and look, have a huddle for it. That's one of those topics where this deserves a meeting. This is more than a Slack message. This is the team getting together on a meeting to review, what do we got going, guys? What do we have now? What do we have going? And then in those meetings, that's a great opportunity for you guys to have more of that expansive discussion of what are the customers talking about that is not falling on that developmental roadmap? What do we need to re-strategize and reconsider in terms of our timeline? That's when you can start to have those honest conversations. Let's move on to the next. Now we're getting into that. I want to go deeper here. I want to go deeper in leaning on that data. Like I said, you can't argue with data. Product suggestions can be subjective. I actually was a part of the Future of SaaS, the last event here a couple of weeks ago. We had a panel discussion that I sat with some really amazing customer success leaders on this panel. I'm so honored that I got to sit next to them. And their whole topic was how to manage expectations. Actually, I'm going to touch on that a little bit even on our next slide here. That's a huge topic. We had such great response on that session too. So much fun. But when it comes to managing expectations, and bringing forward ideas from the customer of, oh, this is brilliant. Like, I want this. And it's like, wow, okay, no other customer has talked about this. Like, this is a first. Nobody's brought this up. How do you manage those discussions? The way you best drive that product roadmap is through data, tracking data, and better understanding what is going to create the future of your SaaS. No pun intended. That's the whole basis of this event here. But let's start first with that customer voice. That customer voice, you got to create space for it. This goes back to my last piece here of having those discussions candidly with your customers. Create a space for that. That should be happening in those meetings when you're getting onto those monthly sessions, reviewing results, getting into those QBRs, rather than not necessarily always even just pushing product. Like, hey, this is what's happening. Hey, let's review how you can use this. The customer should be bringing something to that table as well. That is a mutual meeting. You need to create that understanding with your customers that it's a pull. It's a tug and pull. We both come to the table, and it's a 50-50 relationship at those meetings. When you get to the table for that too, create those conversations, but maybe even too, here's what Visme is doing. Because we are that open platform, anybody can go on our website, create an account. We have free users, paid users, teams, enterprises. It's all across the board. We want to create an open, visible space for them to give us their voice, to give us their input on feature requests. So we actually have a full online forum. We're using Canny, Canny, to manage that. There are other tools out there that allow you to do it, but it just plugs into our whole support area, allows our users to go in, input their product suggestions, and then that's fully visible to our entire user base. It's public, it's online. This is where then we can allow folks to go in and search for other product suggestions. If they find something that is relevant to what they would like to see, they can give it an upvote. What not a better way to drive your roadmap, especially when you have millions of potential customers, thousands, millions, big audience. Let them see it, bring it forward, and let them create that community of exchange where they can then provide those upvotes. And then for you as product can see that, and you can use that to filter into your suggestions. Yes, please feel free to filter in your questions too. I know Gemma just brought in a statement too. Please feel free to enter in your questions, everybody. I hope maybe no questions because I'm hitting some good points here, but if you have examples of things that you've experienced or if you have questions, feel free to bring those forward. I'm excited to answer those for you guys. We'll be definitely taking that Q&A either during the session or even at the end. So voice of customer, create a space for that. But I spoke of too, developing those data points behind the scenes. I gave you that example. I kind of blended my example into the last slide here that I was going to talk about at this point. But to reiterate, hey, anything that's happening on your website, marketing's tracking that. They've got analytics happening behind the scenes on the journey on your website, what information on the website is impactful. You can do the same thing behind the scenes on your product, whether it's custom developed or there is opportunities where you can use additional analytics tools to at least even just find out, where do people go? Where are the different areas of the product that people are nesting on the longest? How can you build that in to your infrastructure of your product? And then from there, I propose and even advocate that this is something that is not exclusive to product development to have insights on. This is something that universally customer success should also be able to see also. Getting visibility into what areas of the product do we have folks using, what areas are not. Because like I said earlier, customer success should know that product inside and out, know the benefits of every facet and nook and cranny of that product. If there's an aspect of the product that's really not being saturated, customer success can then drive their customers to better understand that. That's an educational moment, an opportunity there. And even so, blending in that last point of voice of customer and developing those data points behind the scenes, whether you are meeting with individual customers, I talked about even that online forum, that virtual opportunity, creating that community of feature requests and allowing folks to collaborate and put input on that. Don't ever underestimate the value of having a customer event. Customer events can come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, just depending on your organization, your customer base, whether those, are in person. At one point in time, I drove events for customers where we would bring them together. We had every 16 months, we would have our annual customer event. We'd bring folks in, fly them in, really, really impactful events. But now the beauty of it is we've really functioned on virtual events because those customer events can be quite expensive, of course. So create that virtual venue of customer interaction, whether it's like a benchmark council and it's a select group of individuals, or you open it up for anybody to be able to register and be a part of that event for you. Promote it. Maybe you even bring in some panelist discussions across your customers that give them an opportunity to sit at the table and impact other customers. It's that great networking opportunity. So whether it's, having those meetings, having those events, make sure that the data points that you do have behind the scenes also pulls into all of that, as well as those learning opportunities and training opportunities to filter your users further into the platform. When you peel back the curtain on those areas they might not be saturating enough, you have your opportunity for retention first and foremost, because they're fully optimizing the platform, getting the most bang for their buck, but also potentially maybe opening up some expansion opportunities. So don't be afraid of those conversations. And I love this one. This is kind of like my sweet spot, my specialty personally. Long-term potentials. It's one thing to have your existing customers, your future customers, but what about all those other future customers that in a market and in a space where you might be getting folks that are innovative, technically pursuant. They go out, they find what they need. Some organizations and personalities within organizations just do that better. But what about those long-term potentials where you can further your product into potentially other markets or other user groups, other departments inside of organizations that can also get on board, to expand your user seats, expand the usage, move into another asset or facet of the product? You constantly have to be thinking about those long-term potentials. This blends into how you can manage those customer expectations as well. When it comes to having a customer that has an idea of something that can filter into your product roadmap, think about that long-term potential. And be candid, be honest. We're really transparent with our users. If something comes forward that's a product idea and it is really isolated, like this is transparently not a feature that has been brought up by other users in the user base, be honest about that. Don't diminish the value of it, but be honest, consider it, still document it. See if that's something that comes forward, even propose the question of, is this something that might be useful for you? But think about it in terms of long-term potentials. When you develop your roadmap in this direction, while it might not have been a part of your immediate roadmap planning, what additional markets and opportunities do you open up into? And how can that drive your revenue? Do your research on it. This is fun stuff. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of consideration, but get crafty with it. This is absolutely a huge opportunity for customer success to get a voice, get a seat at the table, and drive the future of your product. Awesome. Jackie, I have a question from you, and this is perfect timing because we're actually coming up on our 30 minutes here. We got about 4 minutes left. So Jackie, thank you. How do you avoid customer success becoming a sounding board of product complaints? Oh my goodness, isn't this like major? I'll put this as our last slide here. This even kind of goes along the lines of managing expectations. So when it comes to customer success, maybe you're not in a space where you have support. I have been in previous SaaS companies where there is not a support team. When there's product complaints, I think you need to look at, is this an opportunity? I mean, complaints can come like, oh gosh, man, they're unhappy. What am I going to do? Flip the switch and look at it like, is this an opportunity? Is this a product complaint that I'm hearing unanimously across other users? Don't be afraid of those complaints. Just know how to give them a better view of perspective of, is this something universal that folks are running into, or is this isolated to a specific team? My number one goal when I am getting in with any new customer, I find my ally. You have to have an ally, whether it's one person, two people, maybe it's your power users, your SWAT team, your champions. Have your ally. There's always going to be potentially other users coming into your SaaS if you're kind of a multi-user kind of a landscape. They're going to have, they're just not going to be happy. They just can't be satisfied. I always joke, customers can sometimes come to you and they expect your platform to do everything for their job, and then they want it to cook them dinner and they want it to fold their laundry. Isn't that the truth? That at the end of the day, you have to, this goes, one of the key things we talked about in that panel a couple of weeks ago is at the very start of your customer success relationship, Jackie, create a customer success plan. Create a customer success plan that speaks of their previous state, what the future state holds with the use of your product. What are their goals? What are metrics of measurement for improvement? Get as hard into numbers as you can. Again, data, can't go wrong with data and metrics. When you have those product complaints coming forward and they're starting to nitpick and they're starting to drill further and they're going down a rabbit hole and you got to pull them out, that is your source of documentation, that customer success plan. Lean on that, bring it forward. And again, have those allies within the entire team that you're working with at that company to really continue to advocate, the folks that truly believe in the product. And those are usually kind of like your leadership and senses of authority that can kind of rein their team back in and support you when you have those product complaints coming forward. Generally, product complaints are things that need to be reviewed in the platform. For us, that usually goes to the support team. The support team handles a lot of those things. So customer success is kind of buffered with support, but I fully respect that's not always the model at other companies. So just always lean on your initial phase and your customer success plan in those cases. This is from Jessica. Hi, Jessica. Have you ever been in situations where the developers or product managers do not take you seriously because you lack technical knowledge? Isn't this like the challenge? Hey, customer success might not be coders. But when you know the product inside and out, how can they argue with you? How can they even argue with you? In the case of product, like, look, there's bugs, there's technical things, there's glitches, there's gotchas. Customer success, I think you build in trust, and having development recognize you as an advocate for the product. When you, even yourself, you're so deep in the product, you find those potential bugs, glitches, gotchas, and you bring them forward before the customer even does. That might be challenging because maybe your product is not a part of your standard roadmap, so you don't eat and drink and sleep in it every day. But what I always make a point to do is I know that product inside and out, every facet of it. If there is something that I see that's not right, or if I get any element of, that doesn't seem to be working right, I get it investigated, or I investigate it myself. And I bring that forward to product in order to refine and fix that before customers do. This is, I think, how you can get the closest to demonstrating your advocacy for the product. I think customer success has started to, to be fair, can take a little bit of an approach of, oh my gosh, it's customer success. They have all these wise ideas and they don't really understand how that impacts the product. They don't know the code. Totally. I mean, I get that. We don't know how to code. We don't know how that code's going to impact other places. I think the best thing you can do is demonstrate your patience, demonstrate your knowledge, show that you are advocating for the product and not necessarily throwing sand on it, and really building that rapport with your support team and building that trust. Jessica, I hope that's helpful. Do you have a template to get customer success insights? Ooh, JB, a template to get customer success insights. Template. If you want to elaborate on that a little bit more for me, JB. I'm not sure if you're speaking of maybe having documentation that can be fulfilled to get customer success insights, or are you speaking to that data and analytics piece? Sue, thank you. Yes, patience, knowledge, passion. Amen. Let that bleed through, bleed through it, but also know customer success already scares the daylight sometimes out of products. So temper it, build that trust, keep your processes simple, keep your language and your messages simple, but your processes thorough. Keep that in mind. Greg, oh man, you need CSM and support. Yeah. Greg, I'm with you. Hey guys, even if you have one support person, okay, and that, look, support is multifaceted. Maybe it's not somebody that's just constantly getting in tickets because maybe that's just not the product you have. But support blends into support articles, resources. Our support team wears many hats, and our resources we provide. What I love about Visme is we go above and beyond with our resources. Essentially, if I have a customer that has a question about something, we should have a resource or a support article or a video on how to do that step by step, how to work through that for every single thing that comes in. If you don't have that library, work on it. We use a collaboration here of, we just use WordPress actually for our support. We engineer that. You can also use Zendesk. There's a lot of different platforms you can use to drive all of your support articles. But what we have started doing too that has been hugely beneficial is getting videos. We use Loom, Loom. Oh, honestly, you guys, Loom is like a must-have for any customer success person. Because, we have our meetings, we have our pre-designated meetings, and it never fails. You just had a meeting last week, your monthly meeting with your team, and then they ask you for a meeting next week. You have to maintain those SLAs with customer success. You got a lot of customers to support. You have to manage those expectations of what you're there for to support them. Loom, Loom, is a great video capturing tool where you can capture those quick 5 to 10 minute, maybe less, minute videos of you in the product, showing them how to do something, and you can send that off as a link. We have also been using Loom to supplement our support articles. So you got your step-by-step guide, because the fact of the matter is everybody likes to learn differently. Me, I love a good step-by-step guide, step 1, step 2, step 3. But if you can accompany a video along with it, record that, insert it into your support article, voila. You have that shelved, ready to use resource that you can send your team at any time. JB, here's your question. My question is, do you have a set form to harmonize customer insights from customer success plans? Ooh, great question. I'm with you. Again, there are tools out there. On our last panel, one of our customer success leaders said they actually use a platform for that handoff from sales to customer success. Whether you use that CRM or you have an extension and another product you use off of CRM that creates that transition. In terms of how you create that customer insight universally across all of your teams, I think first and foremost, if it's as simple as an online forum, if it's maybe a space that's available that everybody has access to, if you're in the Google suite, you can use a Google Sheet. If you have Asana, create an Asana board. First and foremost, though, you have to appoint somebody. You got to appoint somebody that is basically your overseer of that information. Otherwise, it can become a mess, right? Maybe you have a gatekeeper, somebody that gets that information. Maybe it's as simple as having a Slack channel too. Maybe you have a Slack channel where information is placed. You have that gatekeeper that grabs those pieces and puts those out into a repository where everything is tracked, making sure you don't have duplicates, making sure that you're adding tally marks next to the things that are presented again. There might be platforms and tools out there, folks, but we tend to just lean on good old school spreadsheets and tracking for our use cases, especially for internal collaboration. Awesome, JB, you guys use Loom, isn't it awesome? It's the best. Awesome. Good. Hey, I know we're coming up on time here, Jem. I've gone over a couple of minutes here. I know you said you have a little bit of grace period, but I want to give this back to you. I think we've hit most of the questions at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you've given some really great answers there. Been a really thorough presentation, really thorough with the questions. Obviously got a lot of really satisfied attendees. So thank you so much. It was really great to have you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. It was a pleasure being with all of you, and get out there and do some good things. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you can connect with Kaylin in her LinkedIn just up there. And you can also catch her on the Future of SaaS Slack channel as well. So feel free to reach out, have a chat and say hi.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks.